You're using Wix stores and you want to give a unique discount to people who sign up to your website or subscribe to a specific pricing plan. Welcome back to the Wix Wiz. I'm Eitan, and today we're going to be talking about how to set up a unique scenario of the custom discount trigger SPI or service plugin. For those of you who are subscribed and got the alert and followed us last week, this is built on top of that tutorial. So if you want to learn how to do all that and more, let's get started. For today's tutorial, we are picking up where we left off last week. For those of you who didn't join us, I'll do a brief recap, but if you feel lost at any point during this tutorial, I'd recommend pausing it and watching last week's tutorial. So we have a classic Wix e-commerce template website. Everything I'm showing you here can also be done in Wix Studio. And what we did last week is we set up some custom discount triggers using the SPI. Okay, so that's what we did last week. And today we'll essentially be enhancing this by changing out the logic a little bit. And the logic that we want to build is that users will get certain discounts based on their membership and pricing plan status. So for example, a logged in member may get, a 5% discount, and then a member with a pricing plan might get 10%, and a different pricing plan might get 20%, just for example. So the first thing that we need to do is let's go ahead and install the Wix Pricing Plans app, because we don't have that installed on the website yet. So I'm just going to go ahead here and search for the apps, and I'm going to look here for pricing plans. Let's go ahead and install that. And while it's installing, we can also go ahead and edit our different triggers inside. So it's adding Wix pricing plans. Apparently we can't really do anything else while it's installing, but this should be rather quick. And once it's done installing, we can go ahead and adjust the different triggers that we have here inside of our trigger list. So if we go back over here to example.js, this is where we set up our list triggers, all the different triggers that we have for discounts. So let's say, for example, we can change the names over here. Instead of example trigger 1, we can change this to be site member. And then trigger 2, we can be, let's say, basic plan. And we can add in, let's say, one more trigger, which will be for our pro plan. Let's go over here, and here we could have Pro Plan. So we have 3 different triggers, and now that we changed our triggers, we have to republish our site so that when we set up our automatic discounts, we will see those new triggers inside of the dropdown. Now that we've published the site, I'm back here inside of the dashboard, and we're ready to create our discounts. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a discount, and we're going to need to essentially create a discount for each trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And this discount is going to be a standard discount type that we already chose. And the name of the discount will be, let's say, site member discount. And we now need to choose the discount. So we'll do percentage off, and we'll do, let's say, 5% off. And we will add in our custom trigger or requirement. Once we do that, we can select from the new triggers that we set up. So I'm going to select the site member trigger. And we're going to say that this discount applies to all products just to keep things on the simple side. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that. Now we set up one of those discounts, and we need to set up 2 more. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this discount because that'll save us a little time. So this is going to be our plan, let's say basic plan discount. And what we're going to do here, we'll give 10% off. And this will be not for site members, but this will be for basic plan. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to duplicate this one more time. And we're going to have one more discount, which will be our pro plan. And this will give, let's say, 20% off. And we'll change this here from site member. We'll change this to pro plan, and we'll get rid of it. You also have the option, if you want, as you just saw, to have this work for different levels of plan. So for example, you can have the member site member trigger work for both the the lowest discount and the highest discount. So it's not only one trigger per discount, but that's how I set it up over here for now. So we're done setting up the discounts. The next thing we're going to need to do is to set up the pricing plans over here. So let's go over here to our catalog, and we're going to look. I don't see here. Where are the pricing plans? It doesn't look like we have them here yet. Let me go ahead and make sure that the app is done installing. Yeah, so we have the pricing plans over here. For some reason, I don't see them here. Let me just give the dashboard a refresh. Sometimes after you install something in the editor, if you don't see it here in the dashboard, you might just need to refresh. And there we go. So now we see the pricing plans over here. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to create two plans, one for the basic level and one for the pro level. So here we'll call this plan name basic. And let's say I'm gonna make both of the plans free. I know this is probably not how you're going to set it up, but just to make it a little easier to do testing and to purchase the plans through the website, I'm going to make both plans free, but try and pretend that they're two-level plans that probably cost two different amounts of money. So I'm just going to select here, let's say until canceled, and that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to try and save that. So we created one basic plan, and I'm going to do the same here. I can't duplicate the plan, so I'm going to create a new plan, and we'll call this one Pro, and it's also going to be free and also until canceled. So I'm just going to save that. So we have two plans. One is basic and one is pro. And they both are 0 at the moment, but again, try and use your imagination. So that's all the setup that we need to do in the dashboard. And now we're ready to head back to our editor and start to code out the logic which will determine when we trigger each kind of discount. This brings us back to our getEligibleTriggers function. This is essentially where we're going to implement the logic. And here we have the code from last week's tutorial, where we essentially determined that if there are more than 2 items in the cart, we will give a certain discount. So today's approach is going to be a little more complex. And that's why I want to initially set up some of the logic in another file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to backend and public. And here inside of backend, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a web module. And I'm going to call this web module get discount, or actually, sorry, I'll just call this discounts, like that. And then here inside of the function that in the web method that we have here, I'm going to change this a bit, and I'm going to call this get discount eligibility. And here we're going to implement the logic which will determine if somebody is eligible for a discount or not. And I'll just say that you don't have to build this technically as a web method. You could also build this in a regular JavaScript file, and it's probably even recommended to do that. The reason I'm building it as a web method now is because it'll make it easier for us to do functional testing and make sure that everything is working in the backend. So I'm going to change this to permissions. I'm going to leave this as permissions.anyone, and I'm going to change this over here so that we don't have any parameters that get passed in here. And instead of returning this, what we're going to do now is we're essentially going to check and see what the status of the person calling this function is. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check and see if the person that is trying to check for the discounts is a member. So we'll be able to do that by getting the current member using the JavaScript SDK. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to actually copy the code snippet that we have over here. And I'm going to go back here into our editor. And I'm going to paste that right over here up on top. Okay, just like that. We don't need all this over here. And here, essentially, we have a function which tries to get the current member and return the member. Or if it catches an error, then it will log an error over here. And what we could do is just quickly change out the name of this function. We also need to import the package. So just hover over this and you can do install it now. And then what we'll do here is we'll see check for member. Let's change the name of the function to be that. And what I'll do here is inside of our get discount eligibility, what we'll do is we'll say let eligibility, and then we'll say here const member equals to await check for member. Since we just made this asynchronous, we'll have to change this into async. And then what we could do is we could say if member, then we can say eligibility equals to, and then we can say here, let's say member, like that. And at the end of this function, what we're going to do is we're going to return the eligibility. So at the moment, what our function does is that if the person that's logged in is a member, then it'll return member. If they're logged in, they're obviously a member. But if the visitor to our site, if they're just a visitor and they're not logged in, then what it'll do is it'll essentially return at the moment undefined. If we want, we could also give it like a default, like visitor, just like that. There are other ways that we could technically handle this as well. If using the context data that we get inside of the SPI itself. I'll talk about that a little more once we integrate this this function into that. But we're going to need this anyways for the pricing plans, so it doesn't really hurt to do this check here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to get the pricing plans for the logged in member. And for that, we're going to need to use a different set of APIs. So we're going to need to use this orders API from the Wix pricing plans APIs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this code snippet here as well. I'm going to head back into the editor and I'm going to paste that right up here on top. Let's get rid of this snippet here. We don't need that. And here again, we need to complete the import here of the package. So I'm going to install it now. And essentially what we have here is we have a function that gets the list of all the member orders. Okay. And these member orders are the orders of pricing plans. So if a member has ordered pricing plans, then we'll get that back. And what it will look like is this. So we can take a look over here and see what it returns. So it returns a list of orders, okay, just like this. And for each order, this is an array. We'll have the created date. We'll have the ID. What else will we have here? Start date, end date. We'll have a lot of different information over here. Plan ID. Okay, this is going to be really important for us to understand which plan they purchased. Plan name, pricing, etc. Okay, it's also going to be important for us to understand the status, active over here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to refine the code here a little bit. So instead of having orders list like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the orders just like that, and we'll return the orders. Okay, because as you saw, orders was nested under what gets returned. So this is called, since this is also called orders, that's throwing a little bit of an issue. Maybe that's why Wix chose their approach here. So what I'll do here is just, instead of returning just orders list, I'll do orders list.orders like that. Now what we can do here is inside of our new function here, get discount eligibility. What we can do is we can say const orders equals to await, and we can change the name of our function up here as well. So we can say, let's say get member pricing plans, just like that, and go over here and just call that right there. And then we're going to get back either orders or we're going to get back undefined. So let's make a condition here that if we have orders, what we're going to do is we're going to need to filter out the active orders. Okay, so we'll do over here const active orders equals to orders dot filter. And we're going to filter so that the orders that we return here will be where the order dot status equals to active. And this will prevent a scenario where somebody has, let's say, ordered a plan in the past and it expired already, and they're not really eligible anymore for the benefits of the plan. So there we go. So we got our active orders. And now we need to check and see which orders they actually have and if those match the different pricing plans. So what we could do over here is we can go to our database, go over here to paid plans, and open up the plans collection. And once we do that, we can go ahead and we can copy our two plans IDs. So if we take a look over here, we see here the slugs. So this is the basic plan. This is the pro plan. And I don't see the IDs here at the moment. So what we could do is go to manage fields, turn on ID, and then take a look and find that ID. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the two IDs. Let's see if I can copy them both together. Yeah, it looks like I can. So basic is first and then pro is second. Could even try and remember here 5B is basic. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste those two IDs that I copied right over here. And I'm going to store them in variables. So we'll say const basic plan ID, and that will be equal to this. And we'll have another variable over here, const pro plan ID, and that will be this right over here. Awesome. And now what we need to do is we need to basically find and see if these active orders contain those two IDs, or one of the two IDs. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just map out the active orders so that essentially all we'll have is an array of the plan IDs. So I'm going to say here const active order plan IDs equals to, and this, by the way, is a great technique for checking if somebody has a pricing plan for any purpose, not only for the purpose that we're using it. So this is really knowledge that can be applied to various other things when you're customizing your Wix website. And here we're going to say active orders dot map. And for each order, we're going to return, again, let's just make sure that we're doing the right thing. So here we want to look for the, not plan name, but the plan ID. Okay, so let's go ahead over here and we'll return here the order dot plan ID. Great, so now we have an array with just the plan IDs. And what we can do here is we can say, for example, if active order plan IDs dot includes, okay, if it includes the pro plan ID, let's say, then we can say that eligibility equals to pro. Okay. And then we could also say that if active plan IDs dot includes basic plan ID, then eligibility will equal to basic. And here, this really depends on how you want to provide the discounts. Since we're giving only somebody can be eligible for only one discount based on their level, and pro is the best discount. So based on that logic, what we'd actually want to do is go ahead and switch these two around. So basically what's going to happen here is that first we're going to evaluate and see if they have basic. If for some reason they bought 2 plans, for some reason, let's say they bought 2 plans, then first it'll check and see if they have the basic plan. If they have the basic plan, then it will say that their eligibility is basic. Then we'll check and see if they have the pro plan. If they have the pro plan, it will switch their eligibility to pro instead of basic. So this we need to switch here. So this should not be 3 equal signs. This should be 1 equal sign. That's just a JavaScript technicality. And then basically, it'll always give them the highest possible discount that we can give them. If you're creating a situation where if I have 2 plans and I get 2 discounts, then you'll have to figure that out in terms of logic, but it will be something along the lines of what we're doing here. Great, so this should be enough for us to figure out what the discount eligibility is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy this right over here, and I'm going to head back over here to our example.js. And what I'm going to do up here on top is I'm going to import that function from the backend. So from backend /discounts.web. Awesome. And now what we're going to do here inside of our getEligibleTrigger functions, instead of getting the line items here, which we don't really care about, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually say const eligibility equals to await get discount eligibility. Okay, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and say over here that based on the eligibility, we are going to give them different, we're going to give them, assign different triggers essentially. So what I'm going to do here, since we don't only have 1 trigger anymore, we have multiple triggers. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to define our, well, there's a few things I could do. Either I could pull our custom trigger definition outside of the list trigger function and have that as a global variable that would be shared between get eligible triggers and list triggers. That kind of makes a lot of sense. Another option that we have is I could just set up a map between the different plan names and the different IDs, which also is not a bad idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the second option, just because I think it'll be a little quicker in terms of setup. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to set up a new variable down right over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const trigger map. And that's going to be an object. And here I'm going to name the different. So I'm going to say member. Then what we're going to have here is going to be 1. Okay, for the IDs. And we're going to have here basic. And that's going to be 2. And we're going to have pro, which is going to be 3. Just like that. And then basically, according to what we're going to do, we're going to assign a different trigger. So depending, again, my initial thought here was to do something like a switch. And then based on the eligibility to assign different triggers. But actually, I think that now that we set up the trigger map like this, I might even be able to simplify it into one unified logic. And again, this is really not related to Wix so much, not related to custom triggers. It's really just JavaScript logic and how you decide to set this up. But let's go ahead and we'll say here that if eligibility, okay, so again, it could be that our eligibility will come back. So if eligibility is not equal to visitor, in which case there's no discount. And remember that we set up here, here that by default it would be visitor. So that's the default that will come back if we don't assign anything else. So if it's not visitor, then we're going to say here that the trigger should be the trigger where the ID is equal to, okay, try and follow me here, trigger map eligibility. Okay, eligibility, remember, is going to be either member, basic, or pro. So basically, we're going to use that eligibility to find the correct ID that matches our 3 IDs from up here from our trigger map, and then assign that trigger. And we already have this logic all set up from the previous tutorial, which again, you're welcome to watch. So this should essentially be enough in order to set that up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to publish the site, head to the live site, and see if this is working or not. Here I am on the live site, and as you can see here, I'm currently getting the site member discount, and that makes sense because I am currently logged in as a site member. So we're starting off by testing with that, and we'll test the plans, and then at the end I'll log out just so we can make sure that a visitor doesn't get any kind of discount. So stage 1, check, we're getting discounts here as site members. The next thing we're going to do is try to purchase, quote unquote, a pricing plan. So I'm going to go over here to the pricing plans page, and I'm going to go ahead and select this basic plan and just go ahead and get plan. It's free, so I just can go ahead and add it in like that. And okay, so I'll get benefits starting today. So I should have it already. Let's go ahead and now go back to our cart over here and click view cart. And again, we might need to refresh a little bit just to make sure that this new discount applies because we just purchased this plan. So let's take a look here and see if we're getting the discount. So I don't see that we're getting the discount yet. Again, this could just be something that would take a little time for everything to kind of sync up in terms of the data. But if we don't see it in a moment, then this would warrant us starting to debug. So let's go ahead and discuss how we can evaluate and see what's going on behind the scenes in our various functions to see why it may or may not be working. So I'm going to head over here back into the editor. And I'm going to go over here to the discounts.web. And let's start by adding in some console logs over here. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go ahead and add in a console log here to see what the orders are. So let's do here member orders. And here we'll have the orders. And what I'll do also here is at the end, right before we return eligibility, I'll do here console.log eligibility. And we'll log the eligibility over here. And also inside of our get eligible triggers, what I'll do here is right over here at the very end, okay, I'll add in a log, console.log eligible triggers. So we'll do here triggers, and I'll log over here eligible triggers. So I think that this should be enough to at least start pointing us in the right direction. We may need to go through a couple waves of debugging, or it could be that's not even our fault and it's really just taking some time to propagate. So let's go ahead and publish this. But before we do, let's make sure that we have the dashboard open. And within the dashboard, we're going to want to make sure that we have our Wix logs open so we can actually see all those logs that we put in the backend. So I'm going to go over here to Developer Tools, Logging Tools, Wix Logs, and make sure that that's open. Awesome. So now we're ready to do some more testing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish the site because we just made some changes to our code. And if we don't publish, then we won't have the most updated version. And once we've done that, I'm going to head over here to the car page, and I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh like that. Now this should be enough to trigger the get eligible trigger functions. Let's go ahead and see in the logs if we see anything. So I don't see anything quite yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and refresh a few more times. It might also take a second for the logs to actually show up. After a little bit of republishing and refreshing, I managed to get the logs to show. And what we can see here actually is that it seems to be working quite well. So we can see here that we're running get eligible triggers. We got the current logged in member. We got the member orders where we can see the different plans. And we got the eligibility, which is basic. And we're even selecting the right trigger inside of the get eligible triggers function. So everything seems to be working as it should. But for some reason, the item still does not seem to be showing the right discount. So what I'm going to try and do here now is I'm going to go ahead and remove the item from my cart. And I'm going to add a new item to cart. And it could be that, unfortunately, these discounts only get calculated when an item is added to cart, which would be a little unfortunate, but should be fine in most scenarios unless the user changes their status mid-shop. So like if they are shopping and then they sign up to a plan mid-shop, then that can create a little bit of an issue. But let's go ahead back and try and see what happens if I add in the product now. So I'm going to go ahead and add this product back into my cart. And we can see here now that it gave me the Pro Plan discount, which is a little bit odd because we know that it was definitely... So it gave me the Pro Plan discount, but we saw definitely in the logs that we selected basic here and that it gave me the custom triggered ID 2 with what I think is the right identifier. So somewhere my wires got crossed. Let's take a look here and try and figure out where it is. So, okay, so basic is 2. So I'm guessing that it's somewhere in the setup of the discounts themselves. So let's go back over here to marketing, discounts, automatic discounts. And let's see here. So we have the basic plan discount, which is given if the customer has a basic plan. So that makes sense. Let's check out our Pro Plan discount. So I'm going to go over here, the Pro Plan discount. And that is also being given if they have the basic plan. Okay, so this is where our issue is. And I like to leave in these parts of the tutorial because I think that if it happened to me, not a small chance that it'll happen to you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that and just make sure that this changes to Pro Plan. No. Now I'm pretty sure that... Did you see that? Did everybody see that? I hope you saw that. So there's a little bug here. And when I select Pro Plan, for some reason, it goes to the basic plan. So what I'm going to do, maybe it has to do with the fact that I duplicated this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this discount for the Pro Plan. And I'm going to add in a new discount for the Pro Plan. So let me just go over here and do Pro Plan. And the discount is going to be percentage off. 20% custom. Let's hope that this works this time. Site member works. Basic plan works. For some reason, Pro Plan doesn't work. So that's a bug. And unfortunately, I can't really think of why that might happen. I don't think it's my fault. It's always a little hard to know. Unless yeah. Oh. It is my fault. It is my fault. So this is great. I'm actually enjoying this very much. So this is what happens when you copy and paste code. So basically, these both have the same ID, 2 and 2. So Wix essentially thinks that they're the same thing. I will try and shift a little bit of the blame because I think that in a scenario like this, the SPI should throw an error when it's published with something like that, because that's something that is wrong in terms of the schema of what should actually be here. So I would say like 80% my fault, 20% Wix's fault. But there we go. Okay, so that was the issue. It did seem very odd to me, a very weird bug if it was a bug on Wix's part. So that should resolve that. So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to save this, save it as is. And I'm going to go ahead and just refresh the dashboard over here. And then hopefully we can select the Pro plan from where it's supposed to be selected from. So let's go over here and edit our Pro plan. And instead of basic plan here, let's try selecting Pro plan now. So I'm going to select here Pro plan, and now it's working because they each have a unique ID. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now our website should also be working as well. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that from cart. Just going to hit refresh here just to make sure we're all up to date. And then I'm going to add this product back into cart. And hopefully it will add it with now the basic discount. Let's see. Add to cart. There we go. So now it added the basic plan discount. And we're good to go. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this from the cart. And the last test that we need to run is just to buy the Pro plan. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase the Pro plan here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that plan. And let's see. Okay, we got the plan. So we can go here back to purchase the item. So I'm going to go ahead and select this item again. Very cheap store, by the way. I highly recommend this, Tech Shed. And I'm going to click add to cart. And now we got the Pro plan with an even bigger 20% discount. Okay, so that all seems to be in order. And one thing I want to, so, I mean, we saw that in the cart, it doesn't really work when you shift between different, if you shift between plans and stuff like that. I'm not sure about the checkout. That would be one thing to check. Since I'm on a free plan at the moment, I can't really evaluate the checkout. But it definitely seemed a little buggy in terms of the cart if it was supposed to even work. The last test that we said we would run was to switch here and log out. So I'm currently logging out, and my cart will probably be empty. So let's go ahead here to computers. And I'm going to add this to cart. So let's go ahead and add to cart. And you can see that it added without any discount at all. So that is a wrap. There are probably literally infinite different kinds of discount logics that you can create using the custom discount triggers. I can't go through them all, but feel free to comment below if you can think of another one that you think is super popular, and if it gets enough upvotes or whatnot, I will consider giving it attention as a tutorial. You could always also reach out and schedule a one-on-one consultation with me for more specific things to your project if you want to work on it together. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, just give the video a thumbs up. It helps me know what people are interested in and what people like, and kind of gives me a little boost on YouTube. And if you want to see more tutorials like this every week, you can subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.